Alright, welcome back. This is M-Dog, and we are back at Mosquito Lake. Last episode, we caught our first trophy. So I would say that there's only one direction to go in this episode, and that would be down. Although it looks like we may hit level 9. It's going to be hard not to hit level 9. So at least this episode will have that going for it. And, ooh, Chinese sleeper order. It's a distinct possibility. White bream order. I have the feeling, right? I have a feeling. Anything else we want to really focus on? If we go over to our spot, let's do that. Let's start at our trophy spot. Let's go fish our trophy spot. And then we can come back to the dock a little later in the day and possibly do that white bream order. That's always a nice order. When I'm on a low level account at Mosquito, I try to keep my eye open for cafe orders that are just stand out. And to me, the white bream orders, as well as oftentimes the rough orders, they stand out because they're usually worth a decent amount of silver. But they're not as difficult to do. It's very attainable. Where are we right now? Yeah, we're not there yet. I don't remember the coordinates of this spot, but I guess we'll find out in just a second. I think we're getting awfully close here. As in, this is it. Wait. Does this look right? Yep, this is right. Okay. We now have our third feeder. So we can now test night crawlers straight across. We're going to clip at 8 on all 3 of these. Going to go left, middle, and then we'll put one a little bit to the right, I suppose. So this is the most recent feeder we set up, just like the others. Same hook, same line. It is another Spark 3000. So we have 2 3000s and 1 2000. The Spark reels are so cheap that we could, if we wanted to, we could get another 3000 and then throw that 2000 back on our spinning setup, just so that if we do fish it winding at all, we can pull out our spinner every once in a while. Now, one other thing I need to point out. If you see on our second and third feeder, we do not have a leader, right? But I noticed something last night when I recorded the last session that we did, and that is that it was a reminder that since they made this big change to bottom fishing, you no longer have to unlock the use of a leader. Now you see we have 1.5 silver, so we don't have very much. What I did with 5 of our silver is I purchased our first fluorocarbon leader. Now the size isn't perfect because it's 3.2 kilos, so it's slightly bigger than our line. And you always, whenever possible, you want the strongest thing on your setup to be your rod, followed by your reel, followed by your line, followed by your leader. Now, that's in general the way you want to set it up so that you don't break anything. But as we get into more highly rated reels, in other words, higher quality reels, you can overload the line a little bit. So you could have line that's maybe 4 kilos. If this was a really high quality reel, we could put 4 kilo line on there. Again, as long as it doesn't get higher than what the rod is. That's one of the things you got to be really careful about. You will snap a rod if you don't set it up right. You can break a reel if you don't set it up right, and it is much better to lose a little bit of line or a leader. But that's just a reminder about setting up these rigs or setting up your equipment in this game. But this is going to be a good test. So when we can afford to get 2 more leaders, we will. Because I think that using a leader here could be a a helpful thing. It may lead to slightly better fish, but I don't know that for sure. So let's test it. And if the bite rate on that right side ends up being way better again, kind of like it was yesterday, then I'll put all three of them on the right side and we'll really kind of test the same spot. But for now, let's spread them out a little bit. And again, we're using night crawlers, so all of our fish now will be on night crawlers. If we get 30 fish, which I don't know if we'll catch that many or not, but if we do, we can directly test that with how much silver they're worth and make sure that spending that much silver on night crawlers still seems to be a worthwhile endeavor. So far it looks like we may catch a lot of sleepers here today, but will another trophy show up is kind of the question. Let's get these friction brakes up a little bit. The nice thing about the Chinese sleepers is that they're really decent silver for this level. I think last night we were looking at it, and what was it, especially when it gets over like 300, 350 grams, which these have not yet, but wow, another new level. I tell you, it has been, I'm pretty sure this is the fastest I've ever leveled up until this point, as we now hit level 9. This has just been a very smooth, you know, I said at the beginning of the series, one of the difficulties is that as fun as this game is, myself and others, I think others share this view, would tell you that it does start fairly slow. And it feels especially grindy in the beginning. But once you get some better gear and you start getting a lot of different water bodies to fish at, it really doesn't feel that way anymore. We're just killing the Chinese sleepers right now. But I must say that with some of the changes they've made, I don't really feel that way anymore. I think it started... It's got a better feel to it now in the beginning. The other thing that is... Oh, it's not a sleeper. We'll keep it because we want to be able to see 30 fish. But that is not what we're looking for. Undersized bream. We're already at 7 fish, though. But yeah, this has not felt bad at all. The most difficult part I would still say is that very early part where you can barely afford your first feeder and you're kind of forced to use, at least, you know, for a while, 1 or 2 float rods. But in the grand scheme of things, that did not last very long. And I think we definitely made the right move in prioritizing getting these feeders set up as quickly as possible. And I think other than getting bait, we're going to pretty much be able to just save silver at this point towards maybe getting a net pretty soon. And we're going to have our eye on... now, we'll also spend some silver on leveling up crafting baits as well as ground bait. But we'll try not to get carried away on that. And try to save pretty aggressively. Nice fish. Curly just caught a trophy tench. start saving aggressively for that next upgrade for our feeders. I think is probably the next significant piece of equipment we'll purchase. $19.6 on bottom fishing, and that is the other that's the other significant thing, is since we've had 2 feeders out and now 3 actually, we are getting closer and closer to feeders attached to a separate leader, to unlocking Paternoster. And another thing we can go ahead and save up for or purchase. This is a nice one, guys. Oh my goodness. It's like I just called my shot. I just told folks in chat that yesterday I'd caught a trophy Chinese sleeper. That is a nice one though. 471. And that was the one without the leader, which is interesting. Leader might not be necessary. So one of the things I'm wondering, guys, and we need to check this out, is I think on basic bottoms we can now attach baskets for ground bait. So one of the things we'll do is we'll go buy a cheap basket and see if that's something we can do now. I'm not sure we have to wait anymore. A simple bottom rig in which the feeder is attached to a separate leader is what Paternoster is. So that is now 2 trophies. 2 trophies caught. Biggest amount of silver was this one. That was 518 grams. So that was the trophy last night was larger. This is 471 grams. And that one came at like, 11 a.m. basically. But if we can go ahead and attach a basket, we'll start making ground bait now. I don't know if we can or not, but I'm just not seeing where, if I'm remembering right, that with the changes you can put, it bothers me. I want to go ahead and start putting points in spinning reel fairly soon, but a lot of people at this level or as they're leveling will not put points in spinning reel. And I get it, because if you read the description, all it's doing is casting distance and accuracy. Where something like in feeder rod actually gives you control of the fish. Something with like simple bottom rig gives you a chance for better fish. And so there's so many skills you want to put points in. It's tempting to leave off the spinning reel one. But on the plus side, spinning reel does help you get more accurate cast and longer cast, and it is good in every type of fishing, with the exception of, I guess, float, if you don't have bolo or something unlocked where you're putting a spinning reel on your rod, and with the exception of bait casting, once you unlock bait casting, but that's going to be a long time from now. So it is just always tempting to me to put points there, but we'll see what we end up doing on this playthrough. And of course, when you're leveling, it's helpful to remember that you do get one free reset of your skills. After that, it does cost gold. So I would recommend not resetting your skills. I want to put all of these on 9 clip, by the way. We're going to sort of change these. Yeah, it looked like that still fell on this side of the weed, so. But I want to get a little bit closer to the weeds. I would at least get into your 20s before using that skill reset. Just live with whatever choices you make until then, because by then you'll have fished. You'll have put in a little bit of time. You'll have fished in several different locations. And you'll have a much better idea of what you really enjoy. So even if you put your skills in a little bit weird places when you first start playing, I wouldn't use this reset until you get into your 20s. There's just so many different types of fishing, so many different types of experiences in the game, and a lot of them you're not going to have until you get to be a higher level. And so I think it's worthwhile holding on to that. So I think there's times that you can fish in this spot and catch things besides just sleepers on night crawlers, but it just seems like right now that's what's biting. We did end up yesterday. We got a couple of either crucians or gibbles off night crawlers in this spot, but they weren't very many. It might be worth trying another spot to see if somewhere else the other species are biting. But Chinese sleepers have been a really nice steady income, a nice steady source of silver. So it's, no complaints, but. And so far it seems like the bites have been pretty well distributed between all 3 lines. And this was our first fish here clipped at 9. So that's good. We're still getting action there. The slowest may be the far left, which is a little unfortunate in the sense that that's the one that has our leader on it, but you can see the difference. 1 meter, you can kind of see the level in which the rods the lines are going in the water. I don't know that I can see it from over here. It's just a little bit deeper, a little bit farther up on those. So far we've had about, look at this 4-minute break here. I mean, there was at least 1 fish per minute, if not more. We had a little bit of 4-minute break there, and then we're picking up again. And that break would have been around noon, which is one of the slower parts of the day in terms of fishing. So no great surprise there. So it has really slowed down. It may be that right now this is a morning spot, not an afternoon, evening spot. We'll try to get one more fish, then we might go try to catch some white bream to complete that order. We're still getting nibbles, but it has definitely slowed down. It's been a few minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes since our last fish. I'd say ideally, if you can come out to this spot like by about 4 a.m., make sure you're set up and then just kind of cash in there in those early morning and morning hours. Now, I think there could be another run at fish here. I don't know, 1,600 to 2,000, something like that. It's a little bit warm for the next couple days here, 21 degrees Celsius high. A little better fishing maybe with the overcast, a little cooler temps. There we go. Now the other thing I did was I moved the other thing I did was I moved it to 9-meter clip. But I don't think that's what's slowing it down. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. I guess we'll sit here for a second because now I'm curious. Now I'm really curious. Alright, we're going to switch one of them back. Back to 8. See if the bite rate change was my fault. This isn't going to be an exact scientific approach though, because it could just be that the time is and other factors are at play, but they sure enough started to slow down when I moved it to 9 meters. There's the beach that we fish off of a little bit. There's lots of good little spots over here to our left that we haven't tried yet. Camp has got some interesting things going on around it. You've got access to a hole here that you can reach fairly well. 5-minute gap. We'll go ahead and put leaders on these 2 lines. We'll also test out that basket theory, as long as we have enough silver. Trying to be patient to at least get one more fish to see which line it comes in on. Okay, it's one of the 9 meters. There's not a fish on there yet. Is the line moving? No. All right, that's also one of the 9 meters. Thank you, Tubin, who just commented, please keep up the RF4 videos. I really like them. Thank you so much for your feedback. All right, so we got a fish. Oh, that's a crucian. Now, this is kind of what I was expecting, honestly, to happen in this spot, is that we would get... I'm going to start shifting right a little bit here. Oh, finally. Is that we would get some crucians and gibbles, but I don't think it's just not happening. This spot just isn't really on fire for them right now. That is a roach? Hey, we have not seen many common roach in this playthrough. Which is fine, but it's interesting. All right, let's give it a little more time, then we'll go get set up for white bream. Can't remember if I moved that 3rd rod back to clip 8 or not, but I intended to put them all back at 8. So we got a crucian and then a roach here as early evening sets in. 6 p.m. ish. If we have time during this video, we'll try to look at the store in terms of what equipment we're actually saving up for next. And we still might do that feeder kit that comes with the Lacerti and the comma. Although, as I looked at it more closely, I think I've decided that that's not necessarily what I would recommend. It's what we'll probably do because I want to use some of the new equipment, new gear in this playthrough. But I think if you're wanting to know my recommendation, I think it would still be going a little bit different direction. Really, the price of that kit, as I looked more closely at it, how many fish is this? 16? 16 is a pretty nice number in terms of being able to easily figure out cost versus what we're making. I think we move. I think we move. This spot it's still okay, but it seems to be way better in the morning. All right. So we're going to do a little running around here for a second. We're actually going to put our lines in this place on the beach that I've told you about. I fished here recently, but it was off. It was when I was not recording. After the second episode, I fished briefly off of the recording just to test a couple of spots. Oh, this spot has been good in the past. Where are we right now? We're almost to the beach. It's a pretty nice little spot, especially for float fishing. And so I want to check this beach spot out again. One of my favorite... we're not quite there yet, are we? I'm actually kind of confused. By the way, this would be a great place if you wanted to fish with a feeder along the coast, which sometimes is good to do. You're going to catch more of the like roach and crucian and gibbles and stuff, I think, if you do that, but it can be good to do that. All right, guys, I'm actually confused now. I think it was, we passed it going the other way. Yeah, it's further down here. We had already passed it. One of the early spots that I fished in was this little area right here. If you are still doing float fishing, this can be a really active bite rate. So like if you only have 2 feeders, set up your feeders where I'm about to show you, and we're going to go back to worms here. This is not a night crawler spot, at least for now. I am aiming over at that patch of grass right there, and let's look on the map. We're just getting down here in the edge of this 3.5 hole. Based on my skills and everything, I'm trying to do it between a 70 and 80. Oh, this is not a spot that I've clipped. This is an old-timey spot where we're not clipping, and we're trying to do somewhere around 70 to 80% cast. Like that, basically. And we just want to throw worms in for now. 70% cast that time. We just want to make sure we're getting into a little bit deeper water. Just take the clip off. There we go. Now let's see what comes out. But, so if you set up your 2, let's say you only have 2 feeders, and then just throw your float rod, you know, put worms or bread on it, put it right in the middle of that little pondish, I mean, this little like alcove or whatever. That's a really good spot, a really nice active bite rate. It's one of the first places I ever fished when I started playing on my main account, when I first played RF4. And I was blown away once I started fishing there by the bite rate. Now there's other great spots on this lake as well, but that remains one of my go-to like early places. All right, you hear the bells going off. Why were we coming back here? Oh, I think I wanted to go ahead and eat to start that timer again, and look at the cafe just to make sure we're not like close on something weird in terms of order-wise, and then we'll go see what we've caught down there. Yeah, we should be able to do this. I didn't want to... Okay, so we'll take our 3 smallest Chinese sleepers. That's 6 silver. It's barely worth it. I mean, that order is worth it more if you have undersized. Okay, we could get there on roach. We haven't started catching bream yet. Or perch. Alright, that's all we're going to have. So let's see what we're catching here, and then we'll decide if we want to stay here or move to the dock. My guess is that we'll see a lot of perch and a little bit of white bream from this spot. But if there's real bream, it might be worth putting 1 night crawlers in here. We'll see. All right, let's see what we got. But this can be a fun spot to fish with this gear. Hopefully we don't like start catching something that breaks us. But all right, that looks like that's a surprise. I have not caught an eyed in this spot. Nor am I used to catching eyed very much at Mosquito. This may have a rough on it. I think this is a place that will open us up to catching rough, especially at this time. All right. So we'll go a little bit longer here, and then we'll go try to catch some white bream off the dock. But I like this little place. Again, as you sort of make your way around the lake and figure out what spots are hot and what's not, I think trying some places around this off of this beach is a good idea. In terms of coordinates, this exact spot is about 49-44, but you can see on the map we're getting in on the tail end of this 3.5 hole. Nothing super deep. But it seems to be a spot that works reasonably well. We should look at, once we don't have a fish on, let's look and see what historically, and see, look, we're catching crucians here. This may just be a spot where you can catch a little bit of everything. So I probably should put night crawlers in on one, if I'm being honest. Do we have a fish on this line? Yeah, this is like our sneaky line here. That's a roach, I believe. Yep. All right, let's try night crawlers here. There's so many different species we've caught. Night crawlers may just work in this spot. The second line has been dead. All right, let's see on the Mosquito Lake eyed. So the top ones are all boilies. Halibut, caramel, halibut, salmon, halibut. Let's get a smaller. Okay, night crawler, spinning, and then worms. It's interesting. Very interesting. So we'll start, let's see. The crucian, it's like these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, I turned in an order. That's the problem. We're not going to get an exact measurement on our nightcrawler exchange rate, but that's okay. All right, what do you think it is? And when will we ever know? Certainly could be a perch, could be a small bream, could be an eyed again. It looks like it might be an eyed, right? Yeah, a marker eyed. And you can see that was 897 grams, and that was already a little bit stressful for our gear. So we might officially be able to say this is a little bit of a dangerous spot too with worms. Finally, the second rod is getting a bite on there. Let's make sure that this doesn't have anything on there. It doesn't. Common roach. Kind of want to give the night crawlers another couple minutes here to see if they do anything, but we want to move to the dock pretty soon here. It is nice because you can hear the bells from town. So you'll know when you need to rush back. All right, so let's look at, so that to that was 23 silver. Now it did include a trophy, but that's more than the cost of 30 night crawlers. So we're definitely still, let's see what it is without this, without the trophy. 15 silver, which is about the cost of night crawlers. So I think you're still making a big enough profit on night crawlers that it makes them worth it. But they're so expensive, it definitely cuts into it. There's no doubt. I mean, paying 30 or 17 silver or whatever it is for 30 baits at this level is a big deal. These fish are just not worth that much silver to overcome that completely, to not bite into your profit sum, especially when you consider worms are extensively free. Once a day you can get free worms from the cottage. Bread is very cheap. All right, so let's see what we've got on here. Oh, we do have a fish on night crawlers. Let's see what this is. Our first night crawlers fish out of this spot. Looks like a roach, maybe? Yeah, I believe so. Okay, so the roaches are finally showing up for us. And nothing on either one of these. So let's go move on the dock, see if we can at least do that white bream order and possibly even just catch a few white bream since they're worth decent silver. And I guess I'll start off with one rig with night crawlers in there, on there. But I don't think I'm going to make it that first rig because that's the one that has the leader on it. And I want to see how the leader affects catching white bream with worms. Although we can afford a second leader, so that's kind of nice. We'll go ahead and purchase that. But let's get our rods out first. Again, we're not clipping in this dock spot. We're just sort of eyeballing it, casting about 70 to 90%. The main thing is just wanting to make sure we're aiming towards that 5-meter hole when we do cast. And then the second rod, we'll put the night crawlers on. Okay, now we want to get a second leader, but we also want to think about this experiment, this test to see about feeders. Trying to decide if it's worth, I mean, obviously these mesh ones are great and the new ones are probably even better, but the silver that they cost is just not worth it. maybe that I start out with something like this. But first, let's get a leader. And we're going with the cheapest of the fluorocarbon leaders for feeders. Make sure you're on the feeder category. And we'll get another one that's 3.2 kilos. All right, remember the second line is the one that has night crawlers. We'll see if the white bream are still biting here. That appears to be a crucian to me. We can only wish that this was a white bream. I mean, I guess there's a chance. It looks like more of a bream, but I can't tell for sure. Yeah. All right, so okay, we'll put the leader on this one. And if night crawlers does not catch a fish soon, we're going to switch it over to worms. So far, no white bream. That white bream order might escape us this time if they're just not biting right now. How much silver was it? 24.9 silver. Pretty much, I mean, as long as they're 164 grams. I mean, that's such an easy order as long as they're biting. But it was a little odd that we didn't catch any white bream off of the spot down here. Where was it? It's like here or whatever. Yeah, I think it's down here. Because I had been getting occasional white bream out of that spot too. So it may be that the weather conditions or they've just kind of moved or whatever, but the white bream might not be as active right now. I think night crawlers here will eventually get you a fish. I mean, it's much slower than worms in my limited experience. So it may not be worth using night crawlers here unless the fish we get ends up being terrific. What are we at right now? 35 silver. It's not bad, although it hasn't been the best session ever. The roaches started coming in. Oh, we're one roach short. It's only 10 silver, but if we can finish that, it's totally worth it. Maybe we'll go back. I mean, for roach, we can just about put them anywhere. Especially once it's morning. Put a combination of worm and bread and just kind of throw them somewhere near the shore. We should be able to finish that roach order really quick. In fact, we may just, once it's early daylight, we may just kind of toss them into this area over here from here. Try to finish that roach order real quick. Nibble, nibble. Pretty sharp looking gear for being like beginner, inexpensive, cheap gear. I think it looks pretty nice. It certainly gets a lot better as you move forward, but this is not a bad look for this equipment. All right, caught our first white. It looks like a decent one too. It is a decent one. 617 is actually quite good. Yeah. By the time we get this next fish in, if we still don't have a bite on the night crawlers, we're going to switch those out. See if we can rush that white bream order. That may also be a white bream. Yep, they're coming out now. Yeah, they're coming out. We've had 3 in a row now. They've all been markers. It seems like this is the right time for them. You know, I just realized one thing we could try with the night crawlers is getting slightly larger hooks. I don't know. I kind of feel like this hook size should be about our max with our current gear, but it is tempting to see if that increases the trophy rate down there in that one spot, but it seems like in that spot all we're catching is sleepers, so it doesn't quite feel as dangerous to use the, but I don't think we need to. I mean, Chinese sleepers are tiny fish. We don't need to go any bigger than 12s. What was I going to do? I was just thinking about going and selling our sleepers. That's 21 silver. Then we can get that final leader and the ground bait, the feeder, to see if that works. Because we are going to have to wrap up this episode before too much longer. $35 grams, 6 silver. Fluorocarbon, 3.2. Whoa. Uh-oh. Get me out of here. $24 silver. The white bream altogether is worth 10 silver. The problem is we've caught some pretty nice white silver, so white bream, so I mean, it's still worth doing the order, obviously. But if we fish for white bream longer, we can fill that order with some smaller ones and then sell the larger ones separately. But we may not have that option here. Like if this is a white bream, I don't know if it'll quite be big enough. 116. All right, let's see. Can we put a... Oh, we can. Okay. All right. That's exciting. That's exciting. You can now fish with ground bait and baskets from a very early point. Which means you've got more things to spend silver on. All right, let's think about this. So early on here, you definitely want to use... let's see, does it tell you which ones you can use if you look at ground bait? Mixtures, we can use semolina and ground crackers. I'm going to say that ground crackers are both cheaper and less offensive. So let's get a couple of those. And we will get, I think, one additive. Let's see what our options are if they're in stock. Additives, we can use corn, porridge, bloodworm. So do we want to do bloodworm or fly maggots? Let's see which one's cheaper. Or which one they have in stock. Let's go alphabetical. Oh, there they are. Bloodworm or fly maggots. I think we're going to do maggots. All right. So now we've got enough to make two batches. And so normally I would say to level up your ground bait, just use the base. Hey, this is a fish and a half. But we're going to also get additives. And what I'm trying to do is make very inexpensive ground bait so that we can level ground bait pretty cheaply. But that's, oh crap. But that, so we also can match the ground bait we're using to what we're fishing for. All right, we may have to chase this sucker down. I don't know what this is, but we're going to hope that it gets tired pretty soon. This isn't a good spot to catch it from. We're going to have to, I don't even know, guys. I don't think I'm going to be able to drag this all the way back to the dock. If we can get to the beach over here, we might be able to pull it to the beach. Uh-oh. We're going to end up losing this fish. Let's see if we can get it to... See, I don't have a net, so I can't... Alright, we should be able to drag it here. We're going to go to friction break 28. Yeah, we're not lifting it at all. We're going to be totally reliant on this thing getting tired. Fish got away? Alright, that's okay. I would have... Alright. I would have liked to have seen what that fish was. It was on worm, so it could have been a morning tench. It also just could have been a really, like, angry perch. I don't know. All right, do we have enough now? It depends on if that one All right, we're one short. We got to catch one more, guys. All right, let's see here. Let's let the third line be our experimental line here. That means we want to get the other two out while we're working on that. I'm not sure this one has a leader yet. Let's put the leader on. So we are one white bream short. But this is where it starts to get really exciting, when we can start using ground bait, which we could have actually started doing that much earlier, but all right, let's make our first stack. So you go to ground bait. We're going to add the crackers. We're not going to even name this because this is so basic, but crackers and fly maggots. Quality was 1 out of 10. I really like having a couple of points in making ground bait. You might not want to do it at this level. It's a little early, but at some point, if you put a couple points in this, the quality and the effectiveness of your ground bait will go up significantly, which is really nice. Okay, now we're going to put this ground bait in here. Now we could use the ground bait just to throw into the water, but I actually want to fish with it on there. So now we're throwing out, instead of with a feeder with a sinker on it, we're throwing out a feeder with a cage on it. We'll see if that kills our bite rate. Also, next time we'll test it down in that night crawlers area. Again, if you can match the ground bait to the bait you're using, or to the fish that you're going after, if you know that it's a flavor or bait component that they naturally like anyway, then you should be good. You should increase your bite weight with ground bait. And in my opinion, whatever silver you put into it, it tends to be worth it on the amount and quality of fish you catch. And it's just fun. And it's going to take a long time to level up ground bait, so you might as well get started as soon as possible on starting to level it up. Oh, come on, be a white bream and be big enough. It might be, guys. That might have been big enough. Which is good if it is, because we are ever so close in needing to stop this video. Nope, wasn't big enough. We have plenty of time in terms of the order. We also need that one more roach, but it's more important to get the white bream due to the money it's worth. Okay. First fish on our ground bait. So this has changed so dramatically. You used to not be able to fish with ground bait on a basic bottom rig. And so you had to wait until you unlocked, I guess Paternoster was the first one that you could do it with. But that has all changed now. There's a tench. Oh, shoot. It said that there was a fish on it, but then it went away. I believe that we can still catch a white bream here, even though it's gotten a little later into the regular morning hours. But we'll see. The perch are going to start showing up as well. And the other thing you can do is you can take a piece of ground bait, move it to your 4 slot or your 5 slot, and then you can just give it a good heave-ho. And again, just try to stir up the fish's excitement. But I think that crackers and maggots are probably an okay starter ground bait, just to be sort of a neutral attractant towards the type of fish we're trying to catch right now. If we were just going for bream, I would say the semolina might be okay. But I'm not sure about semolina and some of the other fish we're going after. If we catch a white bream with the ground bait on, though, it would make me feel a lot better. I don't know what that little guy is. That's a sleeper. A really small sleeper. All right, this could be the one. Looks like a perch. Trophy 10 shorter. It is worth 85 silver, but still not likely. I definitely feel like that the bite rate on this rig with the ground bait on there has been good. See if this is another perch. Could just be a tench though. Yep, at least it's a marker. Again, pulled it too fast. So we've had a pretty good session of fishing, and we've gotten just right at half a level. It starts to slow down when you get up around 8, 9, 10. Nothing, I mean, it slows down a lot more later, obviously, but those early levels, you can just, if you're catching decent fish, you just pop right through them. Come on, be a surprise, white bream. Just don't see them as often at this point in the day, but I still think we could get lucky here. Yeah. Yep. Now the question is, actually, I am pretty sure that's going to fill the order. We're going to throw this over here. See if we can't get a roach real quick. Let's double check to make sure I'm right. Yep. Okay. Oh, see how I pushed the right click there? Don't do that. All right, this is on bread. We did a little ninja swap there. I put bread on this line. Crucian. The other two still have worms. All right, we're not going to catch any more white bream, so let's do this order. 24 silver for 5 white bream. Take it. Really curious what this is up here in the shallows. On worm. It is a tench, right? That's a sleeper. It's so funny, like usually in this game it's like you can't avoid the roach, but for whatever reason we've had a hard time finding them. All right. One way or another, that's going to have to do it, I think. It's another perch. All right. So let's see. Oops. Is the roach order gone anyway? Oh, it looks like it is. Okay. Well, there you go. Roach order's gone anyway. 19 more silver. That puts us at 51.5 silver. Nice. The only thing I'm going to do before we sign off here is get a few more night crawlers. There's another sleeper. So that's showing me that this ground bait we're using is definitely still attracting the sleepers, which that is a good thing for our next session if we do go back to the night crawler spot. So let's get the night crawlers. Let's also buy that bait kit so that we can try some different stuff. So let's get night crawlers. Let's get the bait kit. And let's get a few more crackers. 1, 2, 3. And a few more maggots. 1, 2. And 3. Okay. I won't craft any of this till our next episode, but we also need to stay on the bread. Again, just trying to constantly make progress on, at this point now, both bread and ground bait. Now, I know it feels like we just spent all of our silver, but a lot of that was for bait and ground bait, so we'll get that money back and then some. And then it always pays off to be leveling up your making bait, your harvesting bait as well. Okay, as always, thanks for watching. We are level 9. If we have a good session next time, we may hit level 10. And then, you know, we're sort of pushing towards Oldberg and at level 12. I guess one thing I'll have to decide is, do we want to brave Winding Rivulet at some point? I just like Mosquito so much, it's hard not to stay here, but But winding is worth trying. See if we can't get on the chub or see what's going on at winding. So maybe we'll do that at some point. As always, thanks for watching. Catch you next time.